Good morning. Welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I'm Brigid Burke, and today is the 20th of November, 2024. It's weird that I think I'm always continually amazed at where we are in the calendar. And good morning, Melissa and Alex joined at the same time, and Joanne. Yes, good morning. Happy Wednesday, isn't it? It's Wednesday. God, I don't even know what day of the week it is. I'll tell you anymore. So we are definitely at middle of the week. Today is ISFM day, so people who are in the school we have our last seminar with Max tonight, and so that should be an interesting one. And I think I sent everything to everybody. He just has that one poem. I mean, I think he's got other stuff in his packet, but he's got other things he wants people. He just wants people to read the one Anne Sexton poem, I think, is what he said to me. So. Yeah, and so that will be that. And hello, Sam. Hello, good morning/afternoon. And it's, if I look a little, like it's a little darker here today, it's because it is very gray out today. Which I'm not complaining about because we did have a little rain last night, and apparently for the next couple of days up through Friday, we are supposed to be having kind of a steady rain, which we desperately need because we have been in severe drought mode and fire mode for quite a long time, which is, my sister said to me yesterday, she used to live in Southern California. She's like, when I moved from SoCal, she's like, I feel like I left all that behind. Same here, same where you guys are in New Hampshire. Yeah, that's, there has not been a whole lot of rain. I haven't really looked at the national picture. I know this seems to be affecting the East Coast pretty heavily, particularly the Northeast. So we'll have to see how all that shakes out. But I am hoping that maybe, again, I don't know. It's hilarious. I'm somebody who wants to live in England, but I'm like, I don't want to have these rainy days. And I'm like, yeah, how many of them are there over there? Although, I've often found that the idea that English weather is always gloomy and rainy and foggy isn't really true. The times that I've been there, those falls I posted are usually roaring and full. Yeah, well, I'll just finish my thought. Good morning, Suda. I'll finish my thought on English weather, and then I'll respond to what you said, Joanne. The thought was just that, usually people think of it as rainy, but I have been there for weeks on end when it has just been sunny and beautiful. I mean, maybe not that warm, it's not going to be tropical warm, but that's another reason that I like it there, because it doesn't ever get, well, I guess there have been more hot weather lately, but in the summer times, but it's still not like what it is here. So Joanne, the fall, she posts pictures of these falls, and my sister and I walked to the reservoir yesterday. There's a couple of there's actually 2 reservoirs locally, but this one is in this one's only about 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes from my house, and so she'd never walked there before, so we decided to go for a walk. And while we were walking there, the water was so low that there was that you could literally see the cracks like in the mud where there had been water, and it went back really far. I mean, it probably went back like, I would say at least like 50 to 100 feet. I mean, I was able to walk in sections of the reservoir where normally it would have been full with water. Although they did say at the reservoirs here, there's some kind of a toxic algae that's been growing on them. It was actually both of the reservoirs in the area. And they've had to drain part of it off because it was one of those things, like if you were playing on the beach or swimming, or if people let their dogs run in the water and stuff, really toxic. Like it could kill, like they said, they'd let their dog play and then the dog would come home that night and drop dead. It's not very, very dangerous. So they couldn't let people go into the water, and they didn't want people's animals in the water. So, so they said that's really more the reason than even the rain. Well, I mean, the rain factor is not helping. Let's put it that way. But my sister and I walked along. It was like that here over summer. Yes, it was over the summer that had happened, and now, like I said, the reservoir is so far back. But we took a walk, and my sister was around because now a lot of the rocks are exposed, so she's going looking for fossils, and she actually did find one. There's a certain interesting little plant-type fossil. It begins with a C, and I can't remember what it's called. But she found a rock she thought, she has an eye for these things, so she was turning things over, and finally she found one. So she cleaned it up and put it on her Facebook, but she found this rock. It's some kind of a little plant-like creature. It's got like these kind of I don't know, little tentacles or kind of things, not really tentacles because it's a plant, but, it's kind of got these wispy, and, things that would reach out to kind of like pull things in. And it had this kind of body that almost looked kind of like if it was a living flower. It was kind of weird looking little creature, a little plant creature, but it's from the Paleozoic era. So she found that, and so she's like, because she picked it up and she's like, this might be a fossil. She's like, then I might take it home and it might just be nothing. But when she cleaned it off, that was in the rock. So she was kind of excited about that. So, but to the point that the water is low, the reservoirs are low, like places where there's falls, they're not as raging and potent as they were because the water is drying up. But hopefully we're going to have a shift in weather and we're going to get out of this dry spell. Who knows? I mean, we might even get snow at some point too, especially up where you are, Joanne, because you guys tend to get colder than we do. But maybe up where Pat is too. But I haven't. But in any case, that was we had. In any case, so. Today is going to be, we're talking about rainy days, and I'm not really complaining about that because we really do need some rain. She'd love it up here. One more reason for a visit before you move. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see how that goes because it's going to depend on when that all takes place. And that kind of gets into a segue into the topic that I had for today because obviously I'm thinking about the move. I have started clearing out the house. I've taken things apart. The first thing I took apart was actually the altar that I have in my house, which might surprise you because you might think like, oh, well, that's going to be a thing you leave up to the end. But I kind of got a, no, take it down. And so it's kind of been dismantled. Right now, the table I was using for the altar, I've put downstairs because I've got book stock coming in for Cotonia Books. I've had a couple of you ask me about the fiction. So that's all going to be coming in the next couple of days. I have listed as the delivery dates from UPS and stuff for that stuff. So I'm going to use that little table just as like a little staging area for those books. And I'm going to have them out. So that way I'm not stacking them in various places around my bedroom. But as soon as I can rent a dumpster next week, I mean, it's actually a little unsettling to see how empty the house is becoming. Like I'm getting rid of things and taking things, and I'm like, okay, this is what I have to do, and this is certainly the first step in anything. And the more that I get done now, the more that when I'm actually going to go, I can just be in position to just say, okay, we're just going to get rid of the rest of the furniture, and I'm going to go. It's part of the reason, too, I don't buy a lot of new furniture in my house, because even though there's some things where I'm like, I could use a new futon frame, I could use a new bed, probably. The dresser that I have is really old. I think my parents had that one. And so, but this is all stuff that I'm like, okay, but when I have to get somebody to just haul it away, I'm not going to feel like, oh, that's a brand new thing that we're throwing away, or, oh, I have to wait till I can sell it. You know what I mean? Or, maybe it could be donated somewhere, but it's old, so I'm not going to feel bad about letting it go. It's served its purpose, right? I'm Taurian, so I always kind of like to use everything like up right to the last. You're the person who squeezes that last bit out of the toothpaste in the tooth, because you're like, I don't want to waste it, that's just kind of my mindset on things. So, yeah, so for me, whatever, there's a lot of stuff I'm just going to get rid of, because I don't have anything that's like, really new. No comment, says Joanne. But I have like the 7-box rule. I want to be left with 7 boxes of everything, and that's it. I mean, I may not include clothes because clothes are kind of a different thing, but that would be it. Like, that's what I want to have left. Obviously, I have important papers and stuff. Usually I carry those with me, along with my laptop and any tech equipment that I have. That would be it. But I'm going to go through everything and very aggressively start getting rid of things. Even like, old DVDs, VHS, stuff like that I've kind of hung on to because I'm like, unless it's something really special and I feel like I'm going to regret down the road that I let go of it, I'm going to, everything is going to go. But that unpeeling thing, and even, I'd say, so the topic I really had for today that I was thinking about was one of safety and risk, okay? And I don't just mean, your typical, fire safety or, the kind of safe, kind of things that you have when you're traveling. How we have certain precautions you take to keep yourself safe, especially if you're a woman. It's more about the safety of making a life change is more what I'm talking about. because I think all of us lately, we feel like we're not in our comfort zone. Okay, and that can be for a variety of reasons. People may not like what's going on politically. People may not. There just could be other shifts in your personal life where you're saying, okay, I feel like now what seemed safe and secure and a sure thing before no longer seems that way. And whenever we're involved in major shifts, and the astrology, it probably is part of this too, right? We've just moved into Aquarius, and I've just found that the energy around that shift has been really intense. And I mean, I have some weird, I don't even know if you want to call them dreams. I've just had some really weird, like I guess you'd call it out of body kind of stuff. It's weird since that's happened. But I've also kind of, Azrael was kind of like, oh, don't talk too much about that. But I was like, okay, well, in any case, something's going on, right? And I'm not even going to pretend that I could even necessarily explain it to you. But but the idea is that it's nonetheless there's definitely this strong sense of change. So what happens when we are oftentimes what can provoke change if we are people who would rather change slowly. Okay, many of us, it's like, or if we do want change, we want to do it, but we kind of want to stay where we're at. We want to keep what we have, and that's where the compromise card often comes in this deck. It's like, okay, I want to move ahead, but I have to make sure I have everything that I had before. And typically that's not how change works. When change comes in, it's like, no, you're going to be losing some things, but what you're gaining may be much greater than what you've lost. The problem is you don't know what you're gaining yet. That's like somebody saying to you, like, okay, like you have $10,000 in the bank. I'm just making an amount up. And give me that $10,000 and I'm going to give you a great thing, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Now, you're going to be like, well, I want to know something about what it is. Otherwise, I'm not, I want to see the product before I spend the money on it, right? It's kind of the way, and it's not an illogical position. But when it comes to life changes, sometimes it's like the universe is just kind of like, okay, well, something's going to change. Like, we don't use your monetary system anymore, and your $10,000 isn't worth anything now, but you wanted to hang on to it, right? And again, I'm being totally figurative here, like metaphorical, but you understand what I'm saying. Sometimes things will change. That's what I say with the universe. Sometimes will change things for us when we're just kind of like, I don't know. And again, our feelings of, I don't know, are not necessarily coming out of a stubborn or irrational kind of place. I mean, certainly they're not irrational. It's kind of saying, is this, this is a big ask, I mean, we're willing to give things up, but when we have to give a lot of things up, it's like, the deal, what, if I do this, if I take the jump, is there going to be at the bottom to catch me? That's the risk factor. That's the fool energy. I'm going to make this new beginning, but now what's going to happen? So the question becomes, and you can have your guides reassuring you all along the way that it's going to be fine. Just like you have the people around me going, don't worry, we're going to catch you. And then we have the issue of trust. And it's just kind of like, do I trust that you're really going to catch me? Or are you going to catch me in the way that I think you're going to catch me? You know what I mean? Because that's a lot of the times too. We make a leap and we think, oh, my guides are going to bring me to this destination, but then they don't. And you're like, what the actual F, And so you stop and you go, okay, well, but then it turns out you do end up where you need to be, but just in a completely, sometimes semi-traumatic way that you didn't intend to get there. So, yeah, so there's a lot around change and transition, and one of the factors, like when we talk about people not liking the unexpected, we often, we may think about that in a way that is, I don't know, more abstract, I guess. When you think about it more concretely like that, you're just kind of like, yeah, it's no wonder people cling to order. It's no wonder people cling to control. Like, no, I want to, I don't want to be letting somebody else drive this bus. I need to be driving it, right? But sometimes with major changes like this, you just have to let somebody else drive the bus. And even if seems like they're a crazy driver or taking you a route you didn't expect, you kind of just have to trust you're going to get to where you're going to in the end. And I think that is the hard thing. And the more of a fixed thing you are, like what you weekend saying about the pH during state, expected versus actual. Right. Yes. Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Suda's referring to I was talking about the PhD comics cartoon from the other day, where they said, "This is how you thought your PhD was going to go. This is how it actually went." It's like, yeah, exactly. Were like you were saying, right? Oh yeah. Don't you love autocorrect, right? But yeah, I had. Yeah, it's that kind of a thing, and when it's something like that where you have a fallback. See, that's the thing too. We want to know what the safety net is. What's the fallback? What's Plan B if Plan A doesn't go as expected? And then the problem is we have to balance the reality of like how much risk is worth. How much are you willing to risk without the safety? And how much do we feel pushed? So when the universe pushes us, I feel like sometimes it puts us in positions where we don't really have any choice but to jump. And that's kind of the piece I think that we don't want to deal with. And that said, it could also legitimately be that it's not the right time until that happens. But I feel like that's kind of the shift that's happening for everybody. We're looking at all of these astrological changes and we're thinking, oh, well, there's going to be a big shift and now it's just going to be this way and that's going to be much better. And it's like, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's like it doesn't play out in the way that we expect. So this really, okay, so where this puts you in is a position of saying, how adaptable are you? And how trusting are you that you're going to get to where you need to be? And that kind of gets into, like, when Alan Watts talks about being in the Tao. Like, I was watching his thing the other day, and I meant to post it yesterday, and I forgot, so I should really post it today. My sister was over yesterday, and we were doing stuff. I have new tiles on my floor because, or if I burned a hole in the floor at one point, like, don't ask. But in any case, there was a big hole in the floor, a big black spot in the floor, and she very expertly managed to get those up and put the new. I had exactly 2 old tiles for this floor left because you can't find this color anymore apparently. But I found 2 in the basement while I was cleaning out. I was like, oh, and I need exactly 2. So we heat gunned it up and replaced it. Or rather, she did because she knows what she's doing. So so that was all done yesterday. But so I forgot to post things yesterday because I was trying to just make sure I had what people needed for the week. So yeah, but the Alan Watts thing was about it was about when you follow the Tao. Like I said, I think he had said yesterday. Yeah, nice. Yeah. I'm happy that that's done. It was like he's like you feel like you're walking like two steps. You're walking, but you're like two feet off the ground somehow. Which sounds like you're being ungrounded, but it's more like you're in the flow. So it's not like you're walking on dry land. You're now kind of in the river of the Tao. You're in the flow, right? So you're going along with the flow. And because he says, the thing that takes us out of the flow is when we start reflecting on everything, over-reflecting on everything, and then this causes us mental anguish and torment and so forth. Because technically, if you're flowing in that flow, you're just flowing along where you're going and letting the universe take you where you want to go. But we have a total distrust of the universe taking us where we need to go. As a culture, certainly that's the way Western culture is for sure. And even in Eastern culture now, I mean, there's been so much of the influence of what we call the West everywhere that, I think it's only you only find certain pockets of people who could still kind of flow with that kind of philosophy. But that's where you need, rules and structures and established law, because we're not comfortable trusting the flow and seeing where it takes us. So, and so that's a hard thing. And again, I can sit here and talk to you about it on this live stream, but the fact that I'm talking about it doesn't mean, because then we start going, okay, well, how do I get into this flow? And the thing is, it's not an intellectual process. It's not like, okay, take these 5 steps and you'll get into the flow. It just literally, the only way to negotiate change is to simply let go, to simply lean into the risk and say, okay, I'm making it, and whatever happens, I'll deal with it. So this is why I think we're seeing the strength card a lot of the times, where it's telling us Yeah, and oftentimes I think that appears to also remind us. We get the Four of Cups a lot too. Four, you look at the fours, right? Four of Pentacles, Four of Cups. There's a lot there about, okay, I just need to hang on to what I have. Or I could make that leap, but I'm not really satisfied about this. There's something about this opportunity that I feel like I need to pass on it. And when we move to the 5 energy in the tarot, that 5 energy is what, that's where you feel like you're defeated. That's where you feel like you're isolated, in poverty, in grief over loss, like if we think about it, or in competition with others, distracted by what everybody else is telling you should be doing. So it's almost like needing to travel to the realm of the 6. And the 6 is where we perhaps reconnect with the past, where we move away from anxiety, where we have the victory. I mean, victories are momentary, right? But that we are in the moment where we have... 6s are kind of that moment where we have moved past something, where we've moved out of the chaos and now we're swimming towards calmer waters. And also, like if we think of the 6 of Pentacles, it may be where we are now sharing or having support, okay? But again, even at that point, then you've got the 7s, which are, okay, needing, you're trying to reestablish something and stand your ground in it, right? And so now you may be saying, okay, well, let's evaluate what I have. Let me try to determine what's real from what's not real. 7 of Cups energy, 7 of Pentacles energy, that evaluation process. And then the 7 of Wands, which says, where do I need to stand my ground and say, like, when you think about it, if the 5 of Wands energy is everybody trying to distract you, the 6 of Wands is you become victorious, and the 7 of Wands says, okay, I am victorious, and I am, defending where I know that I'm at, and, and I'm defending myself against all these other people who may want to come back in and still mess things up for me, right? So you have that kind of an energy. And then, and then the 7 of Swords indicates, okay, we've got everything planned out, but what are the things that we're not seeing? What are the things that still need to be negotiated? And I think that's just it, because we're talking about it from 5 to 6 to 7, but it's not always linear. You could be jumping and then you could find yourself back in another energy. But ultimately, when I ask about, when I talk to, to my guides, when I do readings, when I say, okay, well, for the person who's safe, because obviously there's kind of 2 camps of safety here. There's people who think they're not safe, but they are. And then there's people who are legitimately not safe, okay? And so I said, okay, well, if you have people who are in a state where they feel that they're not safe, and they want to take a risk, but they're scared about doing it. I said, what is the answer to those people? And basically, it's, well, you have to yield control and let go. You just have to, if you're clinging on to the end, you just have to let go. And you just have to trust that you're going to land where you need to be. And I said, yes, but what if somebody is legitimately in danger? And they said, the answer's the same. You just have to let go. Because what are you going to do? It's when fight or flight becomes a real thing, then you just have to let go into whatever you're deciding to do. If you decide you're going to fight for something, then you've just got to go with that. And you can't say, I don't know, do I need to think about fighting for this? I mean, or you've got to say, all right, this is not a good situation and I'm out. But again, I think this is why we are working to develop instinct, because one thing I've been seeing around all this this conversation lately with Azrael and with other guides of mine is that they always keep referring back to water energy. So there's this idea that everything has to start from the heart space. Whatever action you take, and no matter how practical, you have to start from the heart space. So when you are in the moment of taking a risk, or you have to take a leap of faith, you're taking it from this space. You're not, if you take it from this space, you're going to be like, oh, I don't know, or you're going to be clawing your way down and injuring yourself because you're just not willing to just to make the leap. You're not just following where the heart's taking you. And that's really the challenge that we have, because we're not conditioned to do that. That's where I talk about the feminine coming in. We're not conditioned to listen to our hearts. We're not conditioned to listen to our intuition. We only deal with the cold, hard facts that are in front of us. And yeah, it's not that we need to ignore the cold, hard facts, but when you need to make a change, if your whole spirit is making you feel compelled to make a change, then you need to just say, okay, well, these other factors are always going to be here. There's always going to be something that's not going to be perfectly in order, okay? And I think, though, the other piece of that is that what you find, and this is what I have found, when I want to make a leap, when I've made leaps of faith, like big leaps of faith, you'll suddenly find that what you need appears in front of you, okay? I always think of the questing heroes who it's like, okay, Perseus, you have to go cut off the head of Medusa. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, he ends up with this sword and with this shield from one god. And then he has Hades' helmet. And, he has all these things that now are the resources and the tools he needs. He still has to do the job, but now he has the resources to do them. I have a story about that. When I first quit my job and I was getting ready to move to the UK, I think I stayed at my job through the end of September because we were getting a bonus at work, and I was like, okay, I'm getting that bonus before I leave. And my boss said the same thing. She's like, yes, totally stay and get the bonus. But I took vacation time, so I didn't have to. I already had like 3 weeks vacation that I hadn't used because I was working on a project all year. So I was like, I'm taking it now. And then whatever time was left, I got paid for. I think I still had some time left, but I got paid for that the next month. And then, and then I was just, closing things out. But the plan was, I was like, okay, what I made a decision to do, and mind you, this was not an easy decision to make. I was absolutely petrified about it. But I also knew the universe was pushing me because trying to drive to my job every day was such a trauma. And literally, I was just felt like I was having nervous breakdowns every other day. And I'm like, all right. And it wasn't even so much about the job itself. It was about, for some reason, it's like something was preventing me from getting there in any kind of, and then you have to go there and you're a department head. And then of course what I found was happening with my job is most people were just coming in and complaining to me all day about how much they hated like what was going on or how we had no money for anything and whatever. Same stuff that universities deal with. And I'm like, okay, I have like no strength. It's like I have no energy left. So I have to make a jump. I have to make a change. So that's when I just decided, all right, I'm going for it. I'm going to leave. I have my retirement that, you got to pay taxes on it, but I have my retirement. And I'm just going to, I had a friend who said to me, look, if you want to get away and come to England for a month, you're welcome to come here. And I was like, so I mentioned her and she was like, okay. She's like, yeah, let's do it. So I went out to stay with her. And, again, I'm doing this and I'm like, mind you, I wasn't going the full 9 yards. I wasn't selling the house and doing all of that, but I was trying to maintain the house and all of this too. Though at that time, like I said, I was able to get, I was able to talk to my retirement planners and they were able to set me up with the money that I needed for a certain period of time. And so I had, and at that time I had insurance through my part-time job, which I still have at the university. So but it was really weird. As I was getting ready to, to pack and to plan to stay in the UK for a month, I was in my house, I was cleaning something, and I noticed I have baseboard heat along the wall, right? And I reached down and I was like, there's something stuck in the baseboard. What the heck is this, And I had like a butter knife and I was like pulling at it because it looked like it was like a piece of paper or something. And then as I pulled it, it got bigger and bigger. It was an envelope. It was a regular envelope and it was full of something. I opened the envelope. It had about 300 British pounds in it. Okay. Now you might be like, what the heck? Like, where did that come from? Well, probably about 10 years earlier when I had been in England, I remember I came home and I had a whole bunch of, shut up, no way. Yeah, that's exactly. And that was my reaction and that was my friend's reaction too. She was like, what? Yeah, exactly. We just said it at the same time. Now, mind you, these were all old bills, but that's not necessarily an obstacle. Basically, when I got to the UK, I just went to the Bank of England in London, brought all these bills with me, and they changed them all for current ones. So I was able to still use them. But, and I said, boy, if that wasn't a sign, right? But where it came from, I had been on a trip 10 years earlier, and I remembered that I came home and like I was unpacking my luggage and everything. And I remember later, I was like, wait a minute, I have money left over from this trip. Where is this money? I could not find the money anywhere. I was like, what the actual, because it had been, I knew it was in my bag, and I was like, there's no reason why coming back to the United States, why anybody would steal it from me, and it was buried. I always keep it buried like deep within my luggage, so it's not like anybody like, oh, it's in your purse and somebody took it. Like, I usually keep it, buried. And I was like, I know I had this the other night and I couldn't find it. Somehow it had gotten out of, like, when I guess was unpacking on the table, it had gotten out of there, had fallen down in this gap between the baseboard. And the thing is, it was so thick, it's still extremely weird. Some people thought maybe my cat at the time did it, like, pushed it down. I don't know. I have no explanation for how it got back there, but that was the missing money from all those years ago. But the weird twist on that is that another time I had opened my glove box in my car, and there was another envelope with British pounds in it. And I was like, and I thought, oh, that was the missing money. Maybe I took it out of my thing and I stuck it in my glove box for some idiot reason. But the thing is, I had checked my glove box previously, and then the money had turned up. So I don't know. A lot of weirdness sometimes about money that I return back to the USA with. But yeah, but I was just like, well, if that isn't a sign. So I guess what I'm saying is that was additional monies that turned up to help me at a time when, this was a step I needed to take. So I guess the point being is that the universe does support us at times. Your ancestors need you here. Yeah, that's, and it's funny you put it that way, Sam, because I remember when my first reading, I was having a conversation yesterday with Ellen Jones, who, if those of you might, she's at Spiral Priestess, one word, here on Instagram. She had written, she published a book through my imprint, and she's been a friend. I met her in 2016. Ironically, after the last time we had an election like this, I met her in November. I think I had gone like the day after Election Day in 2016 with another friend of mine, and we decided to visit Canterbury because I'd never been to Canterbury, and I thought, oh, I want to see the cathedral, and I want to see. So we were there, and there was a store there at the time called Pure Magic. And the store is long gone now. But when we went in just to look around at the store, the woman said, oh, Ellen's, doing readings upstairs. If you want to have, I think she was doing either angel readings or goddess readings or something like that. And so, of course, at that time, I had no interest in angels. So I was like, yeah, I'll do goddess reading. And my friend came with me, and we kind of did it together. The first thing Ellen said to me when she laid cards down, and I didn't forget it, and I mentioned this to her yesterday because somehow this came up in our group chat. And I said, because somebody asked me, how did you meet Ellen? And I had just, by the way, I had just defended my doctoral dissertation. Okay, so I had that book originally. It wasn't published yet as Death and the Maiden, but it was my, I just defended and I'd passed with distinction. So I was kind of, this was my celebratory trip. And so we were sitting there, and Ellen says, oh, she says, you've just completed some kind of book, and the ancestors are very pleased. And that's what she had said. So when we talk about the ancestors, yeah, I do have ancestors in that part of the world. But the ancestry may even go back to other things. Wow. Oh my God. Yeah. So I was just, I have always felt like a lot of people will say to me, like I've known people who are like, well, why do you want to come live in England? Look how crap everything is. Like, everything's so expensive, and look at the government we have. Blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of things people will say to me about because the reality of living in England, and Sam, I know you can probably attest to this, is that well, you can attest to this because you live there, but it's just, you don't, everybody, like a lot of people in America have this impression that the UK is like, the royal family and high tea and, everybody's, tea and scones and that's not Britain. It's just not. That's kind of like the touristy image of Britain. It's like going to Ireland and expecting like, leprechauns and, like everybody, being like, I don't know. The stereotypes or, the kind of nonsense you see on St. Patrick's Day a lot of the times. There's stereotypes, which is also typically why they don't like Americans either, because they don't like being caricatured in that kind of a way. But the reality of living in the UK is not that at all. There's gorgeous places just like there are here, and there are some very drab places that you don't want to live there either. And Sam said definitely not, and I'm near Whitby. Oh, okay. People are different here than in southern England, like London. Yes, right. So it sounds like you're more on the east side, right? Is that right, Sam? Like you're more kind of northeast, Whitby. Oh yeah, and northern England is a whole different, a whole different experience from southern England. And Scotland's a whole different experience too, and so is Wales. I mean, they're all, yes, yeah, Whitby is a, yeah, it's a lovely area actually. But yeah, so that's, these areas are all very, yeah, people have an impression of what England is. Of course, to be fair, people in the UK have an impression of what America is, you know? Like, I remember when I first went to school at Reading, what do they call him? He was the, basically when you went into the residence hall, he was like the guy at the desk, and I can't remember what his title was, but can't remember the name. Anyway, he was sitting at the desk. They would sit at the desk. We had one guy who was an Australian guy who would sit there at night, and everybody would go down and chat to them, you know, in the evenings if the pub was open or whatever. And I remember him asking me, "So are you from New York or are you from the South?" Like that's their definition of America. And I'm like, I guess if you're going to put it in those terms, New York, you know, I mean, it's. But yeah, when you talk about the nuances of the USA, a lot of times they just have no idea because it's such a huge country, and I hear that a lot from people. They want to know. And the thing is, when I have a rather ambiguous accent. I mean, the more I'm in the USA, the more I sound Jersey. But when I'm there, I feel like, I don't know, I kind of pick up some of the, my accent tends to be a bit, then I would be Canada. Haha. Yeah. And right. Exactly. Well, yeah, they probably haven't even heard of Michigan, which is funny. I mean, it's, or New Hampshire, any of these, you know, it's just, they're not, that's kind of the, and it's funny though, that when I go there, whenever I'm like getting a taxi or something, and if I have to go someplace and I talk to them, they always say, they want to know where I'm from, but they don't, America's not the first thing they get. Usually it's Canada. Usually they'll think I'm Canadian. Your British accent comes out even now. Yeah, yeah, because it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's weird because I have spent large amounts of time there and I spent large amounts of time here. And so, yeah, it's kind of this weird mishmash of like central New Jersey and some part of the UK, and which part, I don't know. I mean, probably something a little more southern, but who knows? I mean, it probably just sounds weird to people in England, but apparently not that weird because nobody ever looks at me like I don't belong there. I've gone places and I've been stopped by people, you know, for charities and things, and I'm like, well, that's really nice, but you know, I'd just say Boston. They love that. Yeah, okay. But some people haven't even heard of Boston, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, but the Boston accent. I'm from Boston, right? But when I've been in the UK and people have stopped me about, like, you know, I don't know, donating to English Heritage or doing certain things, and I'm like, well, I don't know that I can do that as an American. They're like, oh, you're an American? Like, people don't look at me and think American. So I don't know. I don't have some of the issues I think that some people have had being there, because they're just like, oh, they don't. I don't know. It's not always. I mean, some of them do, but not everybody picks up on that. And when they do, it becomes a curiosity, like, oh, you're from America, you know. So, anyway, but the idea is just that we are. I don't know. I guess really, but this all boils down to when the time is right, the universe finds a way to support us, and we have to trust that that's what's happening. I mean, that doesn't mean that we ignore the details along the way. Obviously, we still have to pay attention to details and things, but details may resolve themselves in ways that we don't expect. So I'm planning right now, and I'm looking at schools, and I'm looking at tuition, and I'm like, okay, this is way cheaper than the USA, but do I have the money for it? But what guys keep saying is the money's coming, so just literally stop worrying about it, keep doing what you're doing, apply to the schools, do that. Like, don't say like, oh, well, maybe I won't have enough money, so I won't do it. Like, don't do that. So, anyway, but that was just my little weird, where the universe gives you something. Normally we think the universe gives us something unexpected and it's something we don't want, right? So there was a little story about them giving me something I did need and did want. So, and what's our center card today but abundance, right? King of Pentacles or King of Rainbows energy. Abundance. And this, as I mentioned, this is a card in this deck about balancing our spiritual life and our spiritual identity with the material, okay? This is Zorba the Buddha. This is about you can still be a spiritual person, you can still have practices, you can still be centered, you can still be in that place of understanding there's more than just what we see in front of us. But we can also, be in the material world and plan and participate and do all the things that we're supposed to do. They don't have to be mutually exclusive things, right? And the inner feeling of which we're unaware is we're unaware of awareness. Isn't that funny? Is the awareness card, which is the Chariot. And I think the Chariot is that deep down we know what it is we have to do. You know what it is you have to do. Because a lot of people are going, well, I don't know, really, should I be doing this and that? It's saying, inside, if you listen, you know what it is you're supposed to do. You're aware of who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. And I think that is something that's come along with this astrological shift, is that we're all becoming aware of what we're supposed to be doing. And the external feeling of which we are aware is that, yeah, there's a bigger picture here. Here's our existence card again, the magician card, the ace, the first card, the one card. And existence is just saying, yeah, you're part of a much bigger system here. And I think the reminder about that, too, is that because you are part of a bigger system, this isn't all on your shoulders. There is a big universe, even if you don't always see it, that is supporting you. And it's like, I think our awareness that's dawning on us is that, yeah, there is we do have more support. And it can manifest through people. People, as I was talking about with another Amma devotee on Sunday, we were saying, yeah, sometimes people become vehicles, like the right person shows up at the right time. You might see them once and then never see them again, but somehow that person was there at the right time to help you with the right thing, So there's that idea that things can manifest in that way, but we have to allow it to happen. If we're constantly, kind of doing this and saying, no, I have to figure all this out in my head and solve it all this way, that's where we might miss those opportunities, okay? And what is the advice card? We have transformation. This is the death card, right? Okay. So we are transforming. We need to resonate 100%. This is incredible. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, this always resonates. It's not, these are not, I talk about myself, but these are not meant to be about me. They're meant to be about everybody. So, I only talk about myself because I don't feel like, if I don't have permission to talk about other people's stuff, then I just don't. But yeah, this transformation, we are at this point of, and being this is another major arcana, as I mentioned, like with the Wheel of Fortune when that comes up. It's like, this is a transformation that's happening on a deep level, and it's happening to everybody. We're all having to change in some way. We're all being pushed out of our comfort zone towards something new. All of us are like now looking at our nodal axis and our north node energy. Where are we going? And as I mentioned, mine is exactly conjunct Pluto right now. So it's like, yeah, now it's time to move. But the outcome card, okay, there's our Five of Wands, okay, the totality card. And that's interesting that we're talking about risk and taking a leap of faith. And what is this? This is the person, when you're a trapeze artist, when you think about what they do, they're high above and they're swinging on these big things, and they have to grab the hands of the next person so that they don't fall, right? So it's the totality. You want to be focused so that you can grab the hands of the next person, or you can grab the ring that's ahead of you, So that's what it's saying. Don't let yourself, and the Five of Wands, as we know, can be a card of distraction. So we don't want what's going on in the world right now to distract us. We don't want what's going on, the mind going, but. We want to, it's saying, as much as you can, go with the change, accept that it's happening, and then focus your energy on where your awareness tells you that you need to go, okay? And yeah, recognize there's a big picture. And it says if you're feeling overwhelmed and feeling stressed and feeling like, oh, I can't do this, then go out and look at the stars. Of course, today you can't. But go out and look at the stars. Go out and look at the big land. I think that's why I like looking at big landscapes and stuff, because I'm like, it just reminds me that I'm part of a bigger system, and that there's something very sublime and something very beautiful about it, about the way things work. And so I think it's often a good reminder that we are part of a bigger system. And so, yeah. So anyway, I think interesting. I wasn't quite sure that was the direction this talk was going to go in today. But again, you can't pre-plan everything. And sometimes I find it's better. Actually, usually it's better if I don't. Interesting. I woke up this morning feeling I needed to go sit by the big lake. This is what I was saying. Yeah, that's interesting too. Yeah, like there's this need to get to nature or get to water, or to maybe also even just connecting with our feelings, I've been passing through a lot of feelings this week, and I think some of you have been as well. And some of these feelings, and some of them are happy feelings, some of them are sad or upset feelings, but it's like we pass through them. And I found that as I was feeling some of these feelings this week, which didn't necessarily have a particular reason behind them, they were just there. And I'm like, okay, well, I have to, this feeling is here, and I'm just going to keep moving forward, and this feeling is here. And maybe, if it sticks around, maybe I'll write a story about it, or I'll do something with it. But you know what I mean? It's just, sometimes it's there to, just to show us what's there, or to kind of allow us to work through and process what's there so that we can move forward. So anyway, so just some thoughts about that today. I hope this is helpful to you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And I will see some of you tonight at the absolutely big help today. Thank you. You're welcome, Alex. I'm glad that it was. And so I will be back tomorrow morning, bright and early. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to say today. Probably not. I did post the things. See you all tomorrow. Yes, did post a thing about the dream workshop. Just throwing this in real quick. And and then also the thing Melissa and I are doing on December 1st. If you're in New Jersey, check out my Instagram feed. You can see the details. All right, take care. You're welcome, you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.